that our defense was not put in advantageous positions either. They were just put out there over and over and over again. I think now you take away that Philly game, and it is Philly. Take away that Philly game, which was a shootout. Uh, you look at 16 points to Atlanta, 14 to the Giants, 17 to the Patriots. In the NFL, if you're holding teams under 20 points, you should be winning. And we've won 2 of the 3, and we should have won the Giants game, but I'm not going to go back on my comments on that. I ranted about that forever. But I like that we did see some different looks from JDR with Chase and Montez gone, and I screamed about this in 2021. I screamed about it last year, and I'm gonna scream about it again. Why is it when you don't have your talent, then you get creative? Why can't you be creative with your talent?
Yeah.
But I told people, I said, look, I know we got rid of our 2 biggest stars on defense potentially, the guys who make the splash plays, defensive ends, edge rushers. But we're deep at that position, and this is where JDR gets creative. And we saw more creativity. We saw some different blitzes, saw some different looks. And we still have a pretty deep rotation at defensive end. So guys aren't going to be out there playing full games. They're going to get rest. They're going to get that. So I think that if we can continue this trend of, 20 points or less, now that the offense is starting to cook, we could see some more wins on the board. But maybe that's just my ever optimistic fan coming out.
Adam, it was the defense or a lack of weapons for the Patriots that led to so few points for them?
I'll be honest. I think it was a lack of weapons. I think the defense definitely was respectable. But I think, you start to put some, bigger names out there like Antonio Brown, some of the guys that have torched him this year. I think it could be a different story. I think that's the difference in the game. Patriots, they just don't have those guys. But again, in saying that, to trade, there's not many teams I've seen since I've been watching football since '83 that trades away, 2 starting defensive end, high profile guys and comes out and wins the next week. I think a lot of people expected them to drop this one. So, valiant performance.
George, we've talked about, getting better after the 2 guys went away. It took a group effort. I thought Jamin Davis played a pretty good game. I mean, I know he had the big blunder for the touchdown. Those things happen. That was his fault. I know people were screaming about the D-line. The DNs had nothing to do with that play going off. But I thought other than that, he looked good. Some of the other pieces, I think we saw Quan Martin, I think, had a really nice game, right? And Forbes was a PFF darling. We'll hear from Nick Ackridge tomorrow about that tomorrow. But, I mean, he ranked out well. What did you see from the defense as they kind of worked towards filling in for those 2 guys that got shipped out?
I thought it was a solid performance. I think people kind of, were more sound in their performance. They're sound with their gap integrity. They're sound in their coverage. And I think Phil described it as, it's pretty vanilla showing. Like, they played well. They didn't generate a lot of pressure, though. I wish they had more pressure on the quarterback. That is something we have to look at. I mean, I think KJ Henry had the only real pressure on the quarterback, which was a sack fumble, and they got called back, obviously. But, I do want to see that. That's something that is concerning to me because the Patriots' offensive line truly isn't elite anyway. It's actually kind of a banged-up offensive line. So, yes, exactly. So I was kind of worried the fact that we can't even generate pressure on that. That being said, there were some unsung heroes. Quan Martin had that tip pass. He basically, with the interception at the end, Forbes played pretty well. He put his nose in the run game. That's something that I'm watching for him. Like, I know the coverage skills, I think, will come back. I think he's, a lot of it's mental. He's making some bad mistakes. He's blowing coverages, but that's fixable. What's not fixable, or something that's a concern for me, is he going to be physical? Is he going to be run support? Is he actually going to put his nose in the run game? I saw that. There was a critical 3rd down where he actually tackled the I don't know if it was a receiver or tight end, but he stopped him on 3rd down and stopped the play there. So I did like that. I think, I don't know if we're going to transition, but I think the big thing for me was the offense. Sam Howell shined. I thought during the game, I was really happy with our 3rd down conversions as well. Like, I think at one point in the game, we were 8 for 12 on 3rd down, and that was awesome. I thought EB caught a good game. I mean, Adam kind of talked about that on Twitter yesterday. I thought he did a pretty good job, so I like that.
Phil, where are you on Sam Howell?
Oh, he's the guy. I'm the one who's been trying to get hashtag Howlets are trending. I've also every time I talk about Howell, I say the Iceman throweth, because I said this end of last game last year. I always look at when the moment gets big, I look at the guy's eyes. I'm going to bring this up because it's the most recent comparison. Taylor Heineke always had this weird kind of face. I call it the derp face. He kind of just had this look whenever he tried. It's like when he would get intense, but it was always like this jittery, like he made things happen out of this weird jittery. Holy crap! What's going on? With how there's this weird calm. It's that sniper, that 1,000-yard stare. He's not looking at the moment. He's looking at what I'm going. I hate my camera, by the way, but he's always got this cool, calm, ice water in the veins demeanor. And I think that we already knew he had the physical tools. Got the cannon arm. He's mobile. We can talk about that third down run all day long. But nothing rattles the kid. He just keeps firing. He makes a mistake. What does he do on the very next drive? Drives him down, gets points, right? He just keeps going. Nothing faces this kid. And that right there is the mark of a franchise quarterback. You can get all the talent you want, but how they handle things mentally. And mentally, this kid's about as strong as we've seen in this city in God knows how long.
I put this up because this is a great point. I was yelling at my TV a bunch on Sunday. It felt like they were getting held a lot. Felt like there was a lot of home cooking up there in New England, quite frankly. Adam, one of the knocks on Sam coming out of college was his propensity to take sacks. The sack rate was huge in college. And also, this episode will come out later this week, but I talked to Seth Walder from ESPN today. It was interesting. He also has one of the worst rates of pressure to avoiding the sack, which I thought was interesting. The stats are crazy. They got stats for everything now. But I'm curious, like that. Apparently, through history, that is one of those things that quarterbacks don't fix very well. They've gotten it better the last couple of games. You put that on him processing faster, or EB calling a better game for him.
Well, I think you could take this all the way back to, the last 2 years in North Carolina. Okay. Not the last year was there, but the year before when he had a solid line, solid run game, one of the best receiving corps in the division. Solid, was not taking all those. Next season, started taking those kind of sacks, but what did he do? He ran for over 850 yards. Just like Phil, I'm one of the ones I evaluated him pre-draft. I had him mid-first round. That's where I had him. And I still feel like, I don't know why he got dropped down. There's something that happened. But the bottom line is, I think that third down run, I don't know if I'm going off pace a little bit with the question, but that third down run, that was the aha moment for me. That's when I was like, he's the man. Not saying, okay, he's a Hall of Famer, but is he the man for Washington? So when I saw, I was like, that's it right there. Because granted, he's taking all these sacks and hits, but man, the dude's getting back up, man. Not only he's not even going to the sideline. You don't even see him holding his head down. Like, this is the kind of, guts you see in a Brett Favre, all these franchise guys over the years since we've grown up. Like, you don't see this that much, Lamar Jackson, he's another one that takes these hits and bounces up. Like, there's not too many guys like this. And he just, that third down where he needed third and 23, the improbable, like you talking about Taylor Heineke and all these guys, they're good for one of those here and there, but this guy just continues to do this. His pocket presence, it will get there. It's something that's going to get fixed. But meanwhile, it's the team's responsibility to surround him with the best amount of talent in front of him. You get a left tackle and a right tackle, they're setting themselves up perfect in this draft. You ask me, would I rather get rid of the ends and solidify this line? Hell yeah. Because I think that they're going to be able to find pass rushers, free agency draft. They get a solid left tackle, and there's a bunch of them in this draft. You're going to see dividends right away. Then you're going to see them lean more on the run game to help him out a little bit. I think once that gets going, everything starts clicking. You're going to see him navigate the pocket, step up, really do the things that that fans are a little, I think, on the fence that he'll be able to do. And I think that has a lot to do with it because Leno, Wiley, serviceable, they're doing okay. But once you get one of those blue chip guys that the quarterback can really trust, besides the center, believe me, that left tackle, blind side, or right tackle defend, depending on what left-hand or right-hand quarterback, that means everything.
I'd still like him to slide a little earlier. I forget which of the runs it was. The big one for 24, he went out of bounds, right? So it must have been one of the other ones, but he waits, so he gets cracked in the back on that one. I'd like him to learn just a little bit on that. But I think I agree with you guys. I have been a little hesitant, but George, the arm talent was back on display. I mean, that thing to Dotson was a rope. Falling backwards, by the way.
Beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful throw. And Doug, you're right to be cautious, right? We've been in DC for years. All of us have been fans for years. I've been interacting with you for a while, right? Every year we have the new savior, the new quarterback. But I think we are allowed to kind of lend ourselves to kind of reach, to believe in Sam Howell. I do see a lot of traits that I like about him. I said in a tweet yesterday, there's a lot of critiques for Eric Bieniemy and potential play calling, not necessarily knowing the play. Managing the flow of the game, which they're fair critiques. There have been times where he has relied on the pass too much. However, I think it truly is a baptism by fire, and I think it's really accelerating Sam Howell's growth. Like, he literally is throwing the ball 40, 50 times per game. He's putting up monster numbers, and anecdotally, that's building his confidence up because, like, dude, I can throw for 300 yards in the NFL. Like, he knows he can do that, right? And then, in regard to scheme, he's starting to read more defenses. He's getting more practice with that. He's doing these faded throws. He's doing these throwing, touch passes and bullet passes. He's practicing all these throws. He's starting to see it all. So I am building confidence with him. And the fact of the matter is I think he's only going to get better. Like, we'll see how his ceiling hits, and we'll see if he's ever going to be a top 10 talent, top 7 talent, top 8. We have no idea, top 12. But I think he's solidified himself as a solid player in the NFL. I think he can be a solid starter quarterback. He can, Kirk Cousins potentially, and maybe, I don't know. We have no idea. I think he has that ability. He can throw that ball. My only concern, long term, is what's going to happen next year. Like I know we're going to probably hit the reset button and get new coaches in, a new offensive coordinator. I think the reason why Sam Howell is thriving is because he has Eric Bieniemy. I think there is a marriage there, and I think that Eric Bieniemy's learning. Eric Bieniemy is doing these short passes, and Eric Bieniemy is the aggressive. I want to pass, I want to pass the run first, and that lends itself to putting up these gaudy numbers. Let's say we get more of a run first offensive coordinator next year or whatever. We'll see if Sam Howell truly shines with only 20 passes per game. So that's one long term. I want to see Sam Howell continue to grow, but I also want him to have continuity because I think the best quarterbacks have someone in their ear consistently for year after year and grow with them. So that's what I really want. So if it's going to be Eric Bieniemy head coach, Eric Bieniemy offensive coordinator, I do want some continuity one way or the other. That's what I want to see.
Now, George, you know that I have been on the blow it up train for a long time.
Yeah, I do.
But if they go out here to Seattle
and
win, and they pick up the Giants game, and they pick up one of the 2 Cowboys games, I think you know where I'm going here. I mean, there is now back to it. They can win this, and I understand that's a big win, but big if going out to Seattle. But if they do that, you start crunching the numbers, and they are somewhat back in the playoff hunt.
100%.
It'll be interesting to see a team win 9 games, maybe sneak into the playoffs. I wonder if they might consider letting Rivera play out his final year here with Bieniemy and just see if they want to run the whole thing back. Does that make you excited or nervous?
Well, let me chime in first, and I'll pass around the mic because I'm seeing the expressions on Adam and Phil's face. I think they are a viable contender for the playoffs. I want to put that out there right now. And just mathematically, we have to deconstruct it, right? There's 16 teams in the AFC, 16 teams in the NFC. Roughly half gets into the playoffs. I don't want to sound like a jerk or anything, but getting into the playoffs, it really isn't hard anymore. It's you have a 50-50 shot now. It used to be 6, now it's 7 teams. So I do think Washington will compete for the playoffs, and I want them to. I'm a fan. There's always that train of thought to blow it all up and tank and things like that, but it's no fun. It becomes miserable around here. I like to win. I'm a fan first, and I want to root for the team, so I want them to make the playoffs. It's good for Sam to learn how to play in the playoffs too, so I'm rooting for that. So I think it's going to happen. In regard to Rivera coming back, I am not excited about that. I think you guys know, I've been talking to Adam and Doug this whole time. Phil, if we talk in the chat, I was a proponent of Rivera. I like his messaging. I like how he kind of stabilized the team, and I like who he is as a person. He's a good person, but I think it's time. After a couple of years, that messaging starts to fade, and people start to stop believing in you and stop believing what you're preaching. It becomes kind of like lip service. Even the media, you see the media kind of reflecting on Rivera, I said the same thing again, or he basically, it's all rubbish what he said on his press conference. He didn't really say anything important from it. I think it's time for a new set of eyes in DC, and I think we could rise to the occasion.
But what if he has that with Bieniemy? What if that is the new voice?
I don't know. Personally, for me, I kind of want a new perspective. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I interrupted you. I was like,
I'm just saying Ron fancies himself as the Mike Tomlin of this group, right? Just like the CEO that
CEO.
drives the ship.
Yeah.
Phil, if winning 10 games or 9 games and getting into the playoffs means Ron's back, where are you? I guess we haven't gotten your opinion on the show before. Where are you with Ron? Where would you like?
I'm much more bullish on Ron than most people, because I don't forget a few things. One is what he inherited, and what happens when you end up with what we had before. I'm say it this way: I'm the biggest Jay Gruden hater. I'm gonna tell you that right now. On a professional and personal level, things I've gotten secondhand knowledge of. But anyway, I think that what Ron's done is Ron is trying to set up a succession plan. He really has. He's trying to set up a plan of succession. All right, whether it be this year or next year, there's a reason why they didn't just make Eric Bieniemy offensive coordinator. They made him assistant head coach. All right, they are letting this guy. Ron is basically kind of letting him come in and learn without the responsibility. This is what your responsibilities are going to be as a head coach. There's a reason why they gave him that title. It wasn't just, he's going to be doing more here than he did in Kansas City. We already knew that with him getting play calling duties. He's learning to be the successor to Ron, whether it be this year, whether it be next year. And that's the conversation that Ron, Eric, and the owners are going to have after the season. We go 9-10 wins, and I predicted 10 wins this season. I still think it's very possible because I'm seeing the improvements. I said possible. I didn't say it's going to guarantee that. I still think it's possible. But I think that Ron is setting this team up to have a peaceful transition of power from him to Eric. And if Eric continues to show the improvements he's shown, I was not having confidence in him earlier this season in him taking over. Because a lot of people are like, fire Ron, promote Eric now. When that was the battle cry, I said, why? What has he done to say he's going to do better? Yeah. Let him learn without having the responsibility. Because if he comes in and the team stinks, now he's got no shot in the future. You've tainted him as a potential head coach. Let him learn. Let the season play out. Win, lose, or draw. Let him learn. Transition to power. Because that way, then you're not putting Sam in the same position that poor Jason Campbell got put in with 4 offensive coordinators in 5 years. Because I think that had a lot to ruin his career.
Totally agree with you there.
So let's have a peaceful transition of power to Eric, and let's keep it going.
Adam, Ron told us for the whole beginning of the season, be patient, right? It's going to take time. Young quarterback, new offensive coordinator, lots of new pieces on the line. It's going to take time. We didn't listen. I think he was on to something, and I think he'll tell you, I told you it was going to take some time, and we don't like giving people time. We don't like to let it all sink in and get seasoned. Feels like they're heading in the right direction. My problem is that is all fine and good for the offense. Not all fine and good for the defense. I still feel like there are a lot of moments out there on the field. I'll look at my wife and say, you can tell they're not ready on defense. They have no idea what they're supposed to be doing right now. That's what frustrates me. Yes, Jamin Davis is going to miss an assignment once in a while. They're all going to do that. It just happens. But there are way too many times, to me, on defense that you can see a guy looking at the guy who's looking at a guy, and then the ball's hyped and something bad happens every time. Why?
Well, if you saw that conversation between JDR and Davis on the sideline,
I gotta go flip it and put
I wanted
it
to
online.
see. It was almost like you're dumb. Like, do you see how dumb you are? Like, I don't like that. You know what I mean? I don't
I
like
know.
JDR. I don't like him. But in saying that, I think that there
But he
are
wasn't
things that
wrong
are
there. I mean, you got to know that you're the crosser on that.
right. Yeah, and I'll be honest with you with Davis. Like, and I said it like before he came into the league. Like, yes, he has the ability and coverage, and he has the speed, he has the athleticism. But yeah, he also has that athleticism to rush the passer, and I don't know why they're still not utilizing him in that role. Because if you look at that last year at Kentucky, when they let him go, man, he's hard to stop. He can get past guards, tackles. I don't know why we're not seeing that much. So I don't know. I guess I'm a little bullish as far like on Phil as far as what the ceiling is for the season. Like if a guy or two goes down, what are they going to look like right now? I don't know. I think that it could be a little bit of fool's gold, the New England game. I think the Seattle game will definitely show us a lot more. But I want to see consecutive games, with good games all around. The offense I think definitely did enough in this game, and the defense did enough. But again, it's still that bend don't break mentality.
How has Percy looked to you? Have they missed Derek Force?
I don't think that they've really missed him, to be honest with you, because I think he was having a bad year before he was going down. I don't think he was really having. I think he would have picked it up. I think Percy Butler has been good. I'd like to see him do a lot better. You know what I mean? I'm still seeing him bite on things that rookies bite on, like different things. He's getting quarterbacks are able to really get him a lot. I see they're able to shift him with their eyes. So that's something that I want to see him work on. But in saying that, I think Curl can continue to get on the same page. This is a big year for Curl right now because it's not just his individual play; it's about his leadership and how can he get these guys going in the backfield. I love Curl. He's my right now. He's my favorite player on the team. And I think if he can start to get these defensive backs really going, they have the talent, they have the athleticism. Forbes, we saw, he had some confidence. That IG post for the game, and he came out, he backed it up. Martin getting confident. I think if these young guys can get that confidence, I think that's the X factor for this year right now. If these young guys get going, KJ Henry, that's bullshit. They took away a sack fumble from him. Can he recover from that? Can these young guys really step up? I think if those guys do, things are crazy. Things could happen. Like I still see 8-1, but I think 9-10 wins if those guys really step up. And again, you talk about will they incorporate, Turner a little more, Rodriguez into the offense a little more. So I think they've shown a propensity to really move the ball around. We saw Pringle really get involved in this last game. So, it's not crazy to say that, Turner could be a guy that has 9 targets next week. It's just the Eric Bieniemy offense. That's why I hope whatever happens, it stays. Because, yeah, you have to have star power in it, but they love to move the ball around. That's Andy Reid's system. And that's one thing that I think has a lot of staying power in Washington. Man, they have some young guys at receiver. I think this has really shown me Samuel. Some are higher on him than I am. I want to see these younger guys. I like Crowder. You know what I mean? Like I have an article coming out about
he's been fantastic.
I love Crowder. It's
you
fantastic.
can offer that kind of energy in the punt return, in the receiving game, just all around, and blocking. The guy's 5'8". He's showing some of the best blocking skills other than Terry McLaurin. These are the things you want to see as the year's going. Like, is it going to be a playoff team or not? Regardless, this is the kind of gains I want to see from offense heading into the offseason. But again, maybe they surprise us and sneak in the back door.
Adam, let me just jump in on that real quick, Doug, if you don't mind. I think you nailed it. Like, I'm a very big proponent of Curtis Samuel, and you guys know that. We talked about it a lot in our group chat. I like Curtis Samuel a lot, but I think taking him out of the equation elevates the rest of the wide receivers. Right. Instead of designing plays to give him a run or to kind of do like a little, because instead of using him as a tool, they're just kind of having a standard offense. And I think it's really elevating the rest of the receivers. And you're right, Jameson Crowder standing up, Pringle standing up. We haven't even seen Mitchell Tinsley yet. Diamond Brown's getting his opportunities. He's not catching the ball, but he's getting the opportunities there. So maybe we can draft someone else next year. But I think I like the offense. I think the offense is moving. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about it. I do like that. I am seeing some signs with EB. I do like the fact that our wide receivers are moving, and with a better offensive line, we might see some more things next year. Be interesting.
Ron pointed out Crowder today at the press conference. I don't know if you saw that, about how he's helped the other guys be a little bit more professional and all the little tiny things that he does to really help the team get better. And also Pringle's a 4-3 guy.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that until I went out and looked at him a little bit. The other thing about the offense, I thought this was interesting. I asked around a little bit because I thought maybe at the trade deadline there were some pieces on offense that they just ship out, as it looked like they were heading towards the full rebuild. And the things I kept hearing back was, well, they're not like the full rebuild thing is not really the direction they'd like to go. They got valuable pieces back for guys they knew weren't going to come back. But moving on from a guy like Antonio Gibson right now, who maybe there was some value there, doesn't help Sam Howell.
Right.
Like moving these pieces on offense that they might have gotten a little value for. That's why they were more willing to move defensive pieces than offensive pieces, because they really feel like they have something there, and not providing him with all the things they can this year only slows him down.
Doug, can I throw a question to the group? Do you mind?
Yeah, please.
So in this modern era of like 2023, is it necessary to completely blow up teams anymore? Like, do you have to completely tank to go all the way to the bottom and come back to the top? Like, I would
Depends
say
your salary. Depends where the
depends on
money's at.
salary. Because let me just finish off my thought that I'll throw to you guys. So like Miami, New York, you're starting to see these teams kind of build up quickly and becoming good fast. Buffalo even. Like, do you have a tear all the way down and go all the way back up? That's my question to the group.
Go ahead, Phil.
I'll say this. I've never been a proponent of tanking. I think it's a loser mentality. And I will say this. I think teams that try to do that, they try to do the tank and then build back up quickly, there's a ceiling you reach. And you do not go past that ceiling. Proper builds to build champions, to build teams that go deep into the playoffs consistently, that requires a much longer rebuild. Because, like I said, if you try to do the tank and you try to just talent your way up, but you're going to hit a ceiling. All right. Now, Miami may or may not prove that wrong, but the Giants have tried it are on their second attempt at this in recent years. All right. Other teams, they're only hitting up to a certain point. I've never bought into the idea of tanking for the next season. Now, I think that doesn't create a good culture. You create a culture that's like, we're going to go out there and we're going to try to kick people's asses every week. And if we don't, we don't. But you can build a team. But I think that you building a champion is not something that you can do by tanking for 1 year. You got to build over a series of years to build a real champion franchise. So it's a matter of, do you play for the short game? Do you play for the long game? Short game, you might luck your way into a Super Bowl appearance, and then the very next year you're back at 500.
I can see parallels with Seattle, for instance, right? They're kind of like they've been a pretty good team for years. They got rid of Russell Wilson. They're kind of building on the fly, but they're still being competitive. So
yeah,
I don't know if you see a parallel with that with us, or I don't know how you feel. But Adam, Doug, what do you guys think?
I can agree with that.
Well, like you said, Seattle, like they just gave Geno all that money, so they're really putting a lot of eggs in that basket. In Washington, I think they avoided the decisions to have to make, either Young or Sweat the third highest, or probably be the highest on the defensive line. So you have three guys with nearly $85 million allocated. So now they got away from that. So now you go into this offseason. When you start to look at the free agent list, it's a little underwhelming when you first look at it. But, you got to remember that as the season, at the end of the season, guys get cut, things happen. But right now, I think by getting those extra picks, you're positioning yourself to really just surround Howell with talent. And, you guys got like Devin White and free agent, Patrick Queen, will they finally fix the line? But I think that won't be fixed until JDR and Ron Rivera are gone. So I think, EB, we all love him, everything like this, but really I want to see it done right. I want to see a GM come in here, and I want to see a GM pick a coach and then let that coach pick his staff. They might agree that with Sam Howell, third system, 3 years in a row might not be the right way to go. So they figure it out. But I think you don't have to, you don't have any crazy money that, any crazy, cap casualties that you really have to take care of. I think Leno, you're talking about, I think it's relative. It's $11 million. So, he's a guy, you've got Logan Thomas, these guys are, nobody's in that $20 million range where you have to really knock it down and bring it back up. So, a couple moves, draft, getting some guys in free agency. Yeah, there's nothing close to a full rebuild. It's just really restocking. But the main thing you have to have in this league is a quarterback. And again, I'm not getting ahead, but he's competent. I don't see a point, he's second in the NFL in yards right now. I don't see a point where he becomes one of the worst quarterbacks. I don't think, sacks or not, he's not turning it over. It was, with the exception of that one game, he's not a turnover machine. Even Kirk Cousins, that year he was turning over way more than him. So I think it's just, what is he doing when in crunch time? What can your quarterback do? And I think he's shown enough that at least going through the offseason, maybe bring in a veteran, but you don't draft a first-round quarterback. I think we've seen enough that you don't do that. So if you don't have to do that, yeah, it's not a total rebuild. Giants, that's a tough situation now because now Daniel Jones is going to be out for a year, so it's going to
get rid of him.
Will they go for? I could see that's a team is drafted. Even though they signed Daniel Jones, draft another quarterback in the first round. I could see that.
I agree with you 100%.
That's the kind of situation where you have good coaches in place, but the roster is going to end up screwing them at the end because I don't think there was enough foresight. And people are going to hate the Chase Young, but listen, I don't think it was just he didn't get along with coaches. I think that a lot of people in that building saw this is not going to really work. I think he's about more of a me guy, and just hearing some of the stuff I'm seeing on the show popping up about how nobody told him about a trade here on social media. Personally, I don't believe it. I'm not saying I'm going to give Ron and all these guys credit, but personally, I don't believe that he had no idea and he found out with social media. So there's a level of immaturity there. So I think by walking away, getting a high second round pick, it's going to be like borderline close to a late first round pick the way it's looking right now. And then that late third round pick, packaging those things and really upgrading. I've been on social media talking about, the left tackle from PSU and, Brock Bowers. There's a world where we could see two of those guys selected in the first round.
Awesome.
Those two moves right there, that could change a lot of shit in the NFC East. And, I'm going to be high on those two guys coming to the draft, but that's doable because we saw when it was Dwayne Haskins selected, they traded back in the round, into the first round and got Montez Sweat. I can see them doing some moves like this. So I think that there was really moves for the future. Question is, how hard was Ron really pushing this? And I really think ownership was heavily involved, saying that, they needed to make it happen because they just did not seem like Mayhew and the Martys and Rivera moves to me. So
I caught little, sorry, Doug. I caught little subtle wording from Nikki Javala. I was listening to her somewhere, and the messaging that I was getting was that the coaching staff liked the team and thought they could still rally and bring the team to the playoffs, like currently with their current construction. They're going to push the Chase and Montez issue throughout the year, but then ownership jumped in. I kind of got that impression from her. Like, they never say anything explicitly, but they always drop little nuggets if you pay attention close enough.
Right.
Well, and also I was thinking earlier about when you were talking about some of these teams that got to build it on the fly. Like, who thought Geno Smith was going to be Geno Smith after Geno Smith was Geno Smith, right? And it allowed them to spend that 2 years that they were not good in between Russell and Geno building up that offensive line. Like, they've actually not, like, it never was that way with Russell, but they've got like 3 first rounders on that Seattle offensive line now.
They had a great draft.
That trade ammunition to secure. So and the same thing with the Dolphins, right? They were bad that 1 year, but then they got Tua, and it looks like if he's going to stay healthy, you just add pieces around him, and you don't have to be bad for very long. And they've got a ton of money next year. That was one of the interesting things I thought was good about people kept saying about, why did they trade Chase Young when they could have gotten the comp pick, and they only got a comp pick this year? Well, one, you know exactly what number it is. 2, they didn't turn down a better offer. I promise you, that's all they were getting. And also, we've been talking about all that money they've got. If they spend it, then comp picks aren't guaranteed. You know what I mean? Like, the money has to work right. So if they spend a bunch in free agency next year, then whatever Chase Young gets, which by the way, probably is only a 1-year prove it deal from somebody. It's like that comp pick that you thought you were going to get in 2 years. That's why you did it now. Now, personally, I might have liked to have tagged him a year and just seen what happened, particularly since if the problem is with him and the current coaching staff, if said current coaching staff won't be back, then it might have been nice. But listen, Eugene Shen is in the building and they're using analytics, and I'm sure they wanted whatever pick they could get right now. Phil, as we head into next week, what are some things that you think they need to clean up to be able to get the win?
Offensive line still needs to clean up a little bit better with their communication. They've done a lot better since we've removed Gates and Paul. I'm still on the Cornelius Lucas at right tackle train. I'm not an Andrew Wiley fan. Haven't been since week 2. A lot of people were like, oh, why we get Wiley in the first place? I gave benefit of the doubt because I said, well, Bieniemy likes him. He comes from Kansas City, probably knows the offense. can help some of these other offensive linemen, get on board with maybe different blocking schemes they have for the offense. But he's just been terrible. And, maybe Adam can shed some light on this because he is, very in tune with these things. But it always seems like he blocks down instead of blocking the outside. And I don't know if that's a scheme thing or if he has the option and he's taking the option that requires him to have, well, if two guys rush and I block the inside guy and the outside guy hits Sam Howell, I don't get faulted for it. So it doesn't count as a sack against me. I was engaged, but I don't ever see him kicking out to block the outside rush. And I don't know, is that the scheme thing or if he just doesn't know his assignments? I screamed about this on the podcast. I played offensive line in high school. First day outside of, once we got out of, basic conditioning, they came to me and said, okay, in our offense, here are your responsibilities 1, 2, and 3. Repeat them back to me. I repeated them back to the coach and never forgot from my freshman year on. So is Wiley just doesn't know his assignments in this offense, or is he being told this is your assignment and it's completely wrong? Or I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. But I would love to see them kind of fix that because I think Cornelius Lucas showed us in the Atlanta game that he may be a better option at this point. But
Yeah,
I want to see the offensive line play better.
I do too, and I think we'll continue to see it get better. I think as the new guys are in, not so much Paul. I mean, Paul's fine. I don't know that I think we've seen that he's actually an upgrade over Charles, but and I thought this was interesting. I forget who told me the other day. Maybe it was Kevin Shute on Friday, but it was like, don't forget they kind of brought Gates in as an insurance policy because Larson wasn't going to be ready because of the injury. And then, they kind of just got on a roll and went. And Larson, what has he been back for a couple of weeks? So I guess he was getting into shape. That to me has been the biggest thing so far. And I think will be the biggest thing that helps going in the future because you can kind of see that he is helping Sam get those protections set. Right, George, on Tuesday's show, we've seen several times looking at the All-22 tape where they just didn't get the protection set right. And so hopefully with Larson in, also 30 pounds heavier is not a bad thing. But I think being able to help get the protection set is one of the biggest things we've seen in that line playing better. Adam, what are you looking for them to correct going into next Sunday?
I'm with Phil. I've been saying for we saw that game Lucas had a left tackle. Wiley, I've been trying to figure out myself. It's borderline impossible when you're just watching the film. Is it scheme? Is it miscommunications? Is he missing an assignment? It's impossible to know that unless you're really inside there and really know the system. But one thing I'm seeing, this offensive line coach, was it Travell Wharton or whatever his name? He's bad because I look for plays once guys get beat. What do they do in the next? And I'm seeing them repeat especially Wiley, repeating the same mistake 2-3 plays in a row, sometimes getting bailed out of it. There's a lot of times where he got bailed out of it by guys slipping, falling, that would have got a sack on him. So he could look a lot worse. So what I'm hoping is some adjustments because I really do believe if they had Lucas in the right tackle, I think the run game could get going. I think that they could do a lot more bully ball with that. I just think they can't do it with Wiley. So I'm looking for some more offensive line adjustments. But I'm concerned because I think offensive line coaches matter in the NFL. People don't put enough credence on how much it matters. You've seen with the greats, with Joe Bugle and some of the best out there, they really can take some, mid-level talent and make them great with technique. But you can see that there's just not an emphasis on a lot of teaching going around. I think with Coach Z, you see that on the defensive line from day one when he took over from Sam Mills. That's what I want to see on the offensive line.
Yeah, it's been interesting with Wharton. He has been out a bunch recently for personal matters. So right. I wonder if I don't know whether he's a good offensive line coach or not, but I know he hadn't been there all the time. So it could just be fluctuating between the two is losing the message as well. George, we'll wrap with you. What do you think heading into next week?
So for me, especially with Seattle, I think, I love what you guys said about the offensive line, and I agree. But for me, I'll be watching the defense. I think Adam kind of alluded to it. Like, against the Patriots, without Sweat, without Young, we look pretty good. But it might be fool's gold because Mac Jones isn't an elite quarterback. And I'm not saying Geno Smith is, but Kenneth Walker's a great running back. They have Smith and Jigba. They have DK Metcalf. They have
He
Tyler
wasn't good
Lockett.
last week when he only got me 2.5 fantasy points.
Yeah, a little bitter, a little bit right there. But yeah, but it's like they have offensive talent. And I do think, and I mean, I'm curious, like, how is that going to work? Like, our linebacker core has been a liability. I do like the fact that they are using Hudson more as in the linebacker package. I like that. Thank God they're putting. He has a speed. He gave up a touchdown.
He gave up that touchdown.
He was there.
Yeah. And honestly, he got burnt on that route twice. The drive before that, same pass, it was just outside Hunter Henry's hands, but he got burned on the same route twice.
And the NFL, man, blood's in the water, Phil. Once they see there's an advantage on a play, they'll do it over and over again until you stop it. So that's something to keep an eye on. So I agree. I think, I want to see the defense tighten up. Our linebackers are always something I'm worried about. But then Forbes, I want to see him against. He's probably going to, he's going to get more playing time. He should not be on DK Metcalf. I don't like that size matchup. Put him on Smith and Jigba, rookie on rookie, see what happens there. Smith and Jigba's pretty small. He's not a gigantic, menacing guy like Metcalf, so maybe that's a good matchup there. So the defense is always going to be like, from my takeaway from this year is I want to see Sam Howell get better. I kind of want to see JDR get fired because I don't think he's a great coach. I don't think he's doing a good job. I think we had great talent and he fumbled the bag. I don't think he's doing a good job with it. So that's kind of where I'm at.
And the other thing will be interesting. You fellas were talking about the offensive line. That Seattle defensive line is another nasty, nasty piece of work.
And they
just added Frank Clark. So the offensive line has seen a lot of tough 4-man fronts this year. They'll see another one on Sunday. Should be very interesting. Phil, tell us. I'm curious. How did the Command This podcast get started? Y'all knew each other for a while, right?
Yeah, actually, we all were administrators. There was 5 of us originally. We're down to 3.
Okay.
But we were all administrators of a Facebook group called Washington Football Addicts, 7K strong and growing. And we have some of the best game day threads on Facebook. If you're not a member, throw in that request to join. We'll approve it. But yeah, some of our game day threads are fantastic. But we all kind of knew each other from moderating this group, and then Dev, shout out to him. He'd been on us for about 3 years to start a podcast.
Okay.
We should do a podcast. Because our admin chat would always be just some of the greatest debates would be in our admin chat. Just our group chat would be these great debates. And then we finally started the podcast, and there was 5 of us, so it got to be a little messy at times. But it was myself, Steve, Dev, and Rod, who quit the team. He's now a Raiders fan. And then somebody, everybody knows Rodney Thomas. Shout out to Rod though. Rod, great guy. He actually still administrates our group.
Oh, really?
Too. Yeah. I mean, he talks a lot of it, but also shout out to Ellie Suggs.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen all this.
Classified. Steve is in the chat, help me out here. But yeah, we definitely we started the podcast literally it was 5 episodes before the initial name change.
Gotcha.
We started out as Redskins Addicts, and then we was Washington Football Addicts, and we said we're not doing addicts again. We're gonna do something different. So we came, Command This. And we're 200 and some episodes in. We're not as prolific as some of the other guys out here in the podcast game because we all work and just Steve's got kids, Dev's got kids, and so forth. So we've been doing this for quite a while. We're up to almost 10,000 subs on YouTube and growing and really just trying to push it out there. We'd love to get more content out if we could ever get everybody in the same place at the same time. But we always joke that I always say that we're kind of like a lot of the podcasts. There's a lot of great podcasts. I think our fan base has more great fan pods than any other fan base in football. But we I've said that we're kind of like we're the kids who were smoking in the locker or smoking in the bathroom, and cutting class. We're kind of like that podcast, relative to some of the others. We're kind of like the badass kids. We think we're the cool kids, but we're kind of like the badass kids over there because some of our discussions get derailed in some of the weirdest ways. We say a lot of things that I know the team itself probably listens to our podcast, and I know that somebody there does, but I know they're listening. And go, we can't associate with these guys. Some of the things they say are just no. But we have fun. We enjoy it, and we invite anybody listening to this pod, watching this. Come give us a look. If we're your cup of tea, subscribe. If not, hey, I understand. We don't claim to be everybody's cup of tea, especially with some of the jokes that Dev cracks. But nonetheless, I mean, we love having all you guys on. We've had all of you guys on at some point, I believe. So, and the invitation is the door's always open for y'all to come on. And maybe you can, I know a lot of you guys run very professional shows. You talk very professionally, very organized. If you want to get into some organized chaos, come join our podcast.
Right.
I've been there before, for sure.
Oh yeah.
And I believe I'm coming on next week, and I'm excited about
Yes, sir.
that. You guys are the best. It's when during the week is it? Tell the folks when they can find it.
It's Monday, usually Mondays and Thursdays, 8:30 p.m. We do start fashionably late most of the time. So 8:35, 8:45. Hit that subscription and that notification bell if you're going to join, so that way you get the notification when it's coming. But yeah, Mondays and Thursdays most of the time. I just got StreamYard administrator access.
Nice.
So I may be popping in on some random lives. We did a random live after the two trades at the deadline.
Okay.
We just said, okay, we're going live tonight. And we just threw that out there. And that was actually fun. Dev was on fire that day. I mean, yeah, I know a lot of y'all know Dev. Dev is the most chill dude. He was on fire. I just kind of let him go. I was like, damn, this dude's on it. But yeah, Mondays, Thursdays, 8:30, and then whenever news breaks, we fix it.
Love you guys, man. I'm excited about next week. George, Adam, we'll see you next time.
It is,
Thanks,
guys.
guys.
Peace.